Hi guys, today I've got a few things that I'd like to get done. I want to start in the butterfly garden. I've got a few perennials and a couple of shrubs that I need to transplant back into their nursery containers to make room for Mo to get in here in the next couple weeks and start working on extending the swale and regrading that whole back area along our arborvitae hedge. I also think I'm going to be dividing a few perennials, so I'll show you how I do that. And then after we finish all that, I need to tackle our green stalk vertical garden. The strawberries are spitting out runners left, right, and sideways. So I'm going to try propagating them a different way, and I'll show you how I do that too. But let's start with the swale first. You can see this little indent in the lawn. That's the swale. It starts from the fence line and works its way all the way up to the beginning of the butterfly garden. What we're going to do is we need to extend it all the way up to the fence line. You can see that there is a natural indentation right here where the flow of water is starting to erode the soil a little bit. And as we walk up into the butterfly garden, it starts to curve over here. And then when we get right around this tiny wine 9-bark, you can see the indent that goes all the way to the fence line. So what we need to do is remove this tiny wine 9-bark and these 3 shasta daisies. These are the shasta daisies I'm going to divide as well, because if you look in the center of these, they're kind of hollow. It kind of looks like a donut, and that's usually a good sign that these are ready for dividing. But anyway, so we're going to work on that, and then I may come in here and I don't know, I may remove these lemony lace elderberries. Look at these. They're like sticks. I don't know what's going on with them. They're pushing some new growth right at the bottom, but they're not really doing anything. And they've been in the ground for a few months, so I don't know what's going on. Oh, and I need to clean up some suckers around the crepe myrtle. But anyway, so looking at it from the top going down, you can see where the flow of water is just naturally flowing right here, and it just so happens to be right next to our perennials, and then it just goes right into the swale. So Mo is going to be working on extending the swale and regrading this whole back area where we initially had our berm. It starts all the way at the gate, the front gate, and all the way back to this arborvitae and this Vanilla Spice Summer Sweet. I had to come in here a couple weeks ago and I pulled every single arborvitae out of the ground and replanted it about 3 inches higher. And you can see how I mounded the soil around the base of the trees. So it is definitely higher. So now when we come in with more fill dirt and lift this whole area, we're not burying the trunk of the plant too deep and eventually killing it. And the reason why we're having to redo the berm again is initially when we removed the sod, we brought in some fill dirt and created a berm and planted the arborvitaes on top of that. But what ended up happening was the soil settled a little too much and it messed with the whole grading of this whole bed. So when it rained, it would start flooding. This whole bed would start flooding and there would be just pools of water around the trunk of each arborvitae. So we now have to come in here and rework this whole area again and fix all of the drainage and the grading, so when we get these deluge rains, the water can flow away from the trunk of the plant into the swale and not just start creating pools of water and drowning out these poor trees. We've also been talking about removing all the grass in the swale and replacing it with river rock. Initially, when we had the swale installed, they asked us if we wanted grass or river rock. And at the time, I couldn't picture this strip of rock going through the middle of our backyard. But looking back on it now, if I had to do it again, I would have chosen the river rock because it's a little tricky trying to get into the swale and mow it all the time. So today we're going to be digging up these 3 shasta daisies and dividing them. Oh, I've also got, it looks like I've got a Russian sage sprouting up over here as well. And this tiny wine 9-bark. I've got another one right over here and I'm contemplating pulling both of them only because I'm not super happy or I'm not loving the color. If you look closely at it, it's kind of like this muted greenish red, but it disappears against the mulch and it doesn't really stand out behind the arborvitae. It kind of just disappears. Unlike the Dark Star 9 bark over here, which, you guys, this thing is beautiful. Look at the difference. I don't know if it's picking up on camera, but look how deep, dark red that is, almost black, compared to the Tiny Wine 9 bark. I think I like this more, and this is actually most favorite plant in this whole bed. So I may end up either getting another one or scooting this one over here. Haven't quite decided yet, but it is just beautiful. Oh, look at this. Our flavorette paired rose has got some rose hips on it. I need to come in and deadhead too, by the way, but look. Isn't that beautiful? Let me get it. Oh, look at that. Oh, so pretty. And it feels like fall out here. It's mid-morning, we're in the upper 60s, no humidity, and there is a breeze blowing that feels amazing. This is perfect gardening weather. So let's jump into our first project and then we'll move on to our green stock. I want to start with our shasta daisies first, since those are the perennials that we're going to be digging up and dividing. And the whole beauty of dividing is that you end up with more plants, and it's better for the plant's overall health. So things that have a clumping nature like hostas and irises, daylilies, ornamental grasses, daisies, things that tend to clump and spread out over time and get wider and wider, those are the things that you want to divide, because what ends up happening is in the center of the plant, it gets so condensed that it starts to die off, and then all you're left with is like this donut where the center is completely gone and you just have this ring. So dividing them gives the plants a lot more room for root growth, airflow, light, and again, free plants. And who doesn't love that? So let's get to that first, and then we'll move on to the rest of our perennial dig out. Real quick before we get started, I wanted to show you what I was talking about. So we have this daisy here that hasn't been divided ever, and it's about 4 years old. You can see right in the center, it's pretty much died out, and all we're left with is growth all the way around the plant. So this is what I mean when I say you need to get in here and divide it up so you can get airflow and sunlight to the rest of the plants and eliminate this little donut hole right here. So for this, we need our shovel, and we just want to get in here and get this plant out of the ground. And typically it comes out pretty easy. See that? Now we're ready to divide this. So if you look through the foliage, you can see where there's some natural separation between the plant foliage. That's where we want to start dividing. So this right here will be one plant, and then right over here, we've got some separation right there, so we can make a cut here. So we'll end up with 3 clumps as opposed to one giant one. So to divide, you want to take the tip of your shovel, or you can use like a handsaw, and you just want to put your shovel right in where that separation occurs, and you want to make your cut straight down. Right there, and another one right here. And here is our first division. Set that aside. Now we can divide this. And the natural separation is right there. So I'll take my shovel and just make another cut. And now we have 3 clumps as opposed to 1. So that one plant turned into 3 new plants, and I could divide this even further, creating 6 new plants, but again, I don't want to take it down that small. I think this is actually a pretty good size. And now we can just pot them up. And I'm just going to use a little bit of soil here. It's dry. And that's it. We'll get this watered in and moved over to our little landing pad over there. And And also typically, if I was going to keep these in containers for an extended period of time, I would probably use potting soil. But since this is temporary, this will be fine. And here they are, divided and potted up. Another benefit to dividing perennials is the money that you save. This one perennial in a garden center would probably be about $15 to $20. So we have 3 of them here. So we've saved anywhere from $45 to $60. And I think that is awesome. All right, guys, I am going to dive into the rest of this project, get our daisies dug up, our Russian sage, and our tiny wine 9 bark all dug up and repotted. Well, that one kind of naturally divided itself. So we ended up with 3 clumps. All right, guys, we are done with our transplanting and dividing, and this is what we ended up with. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 shasta daisies from our original 3, our 1 tiny wine 9 bark, and our Russian sage, all repotted and watered in. And this is where they're going to remain until we're ready to replant them. It's perfect right here because we've got all of our container plants here, so it makes watering a lot easier. And now we're making our way up the swale to the butterfly garden. This is all of the debris that we removed from the crepe myrtle, all of those suckers around the base and right up there in the center. Cleaned out that whole area so it looks much nicer now. And then right in here is where we dug up all of our perennials and shrubs. And you can see I've still got holes in here. I'm not going to worry too much about filling them back up because Mo's going to come in here and just trench this whole area all the way to the fence. So there's really no need to worry about putting dirt back in here or putting soil back in here and filling up the holes, only to have him just come back in and dig it all out. And I am really looking forward to having this whole swale regrading project completed so I don't have to worry and stress whenever we get these heavy deluge rains. I tend to stress out like water flow. Are the plants going to be okay? Are the trees going to be okay? Is there flooding occurring? It will be nice to just be able to enjoy the rain and not worry about water flow and drainage and all of that other stuff. And then we can move on to our other projects. And speaking of other projects, let's move on to our Greenstock Vertical Garden project because we have more strawberry runner plants to propagate. So a few weeks ago, we came in here and we propagated our strawberry runners. You can see we've got our little 2-inch terracotta pots inside each pocket of our Greenstock vertical garden, and they have rooted in, so these are good. But if I stand back, look at what this whole thing has done. All of these strawberries have sent out more runners. Now, initially when we propagated them, the first time I cut all of the runners off after we were done. So all of these are new, and just look how many new plants we've got, and look how hardy some of them are already, and none of them are in soil. So I think what I want to do is I'm going to cut all of these runners off and pick out the biggest and healthiest plants and get them potted up. Now, the best way to propagate strawberry plants so you have the highest success is to find a strawberry runner with a really nice hardy plant and get that plant in some fresh soil, leaving it attached to the mother plant, but any remaining runners below that plant you want to clip off. So for example, with this strawberry runner plant, you can see we've got one big plant right here, but as you go down the runner, we've got another little one here and another one forming here. So what I would do is I would select this one since it is the healthiest and the biggest, and I would put this in some fresh soil, and I would use a little pin or something to hold it down, and then I would cut this runner off right here and discard the rest or propagate them, but I would leave it attached to the mother plant here. So the mother plant can continue providing nutrients to this plant until this plant roots in, and then we can come in and detach it from the mother plant and get it potted in the ground. And this whole process usually takes a few weeks until it's ready to be planted. I've got everything we're going to need set up on the patio table. I've got our 5/8 cell count trays, so we're going to have 40 new strawberry plants. I've got some potting soil. I even brought out a little bit of seed starting mix. I'm probably going to mix a little of both together. And I've got our little nippers so we can detach our strawberry runners. And these are the little greening pins that I was talking about. This is what you want to use to kind of fasten the strawberry plant into position. So I'm going to remove all the runners from the strawberry plants, pick out the healthiest ones, and then I'll show you how to get them fastened into the soil. A lot of the plants that we propagated a few weeks ago, they're sending out runners too. So it's like this whole spiderweb network of runners all over the place. All right, all of the runners have been cut from the mother plants, and I've gone through and selected all of the biggest and healthiest looking plants and just kind of worked my way all the way down to the smallest. I don't even know how many plants I've got over here. I lost track, and I don't even know how many runners I cut. I know there were well over 60 or 70 runners. There were so many. Even the little baby plants that we propagated a few weeks ago, they were sending out runners too. So I don't know. No fruit, but a whole bunch of runners this season. So these are all of the plants that I have set aside for us to propagate. And you can see some of these are huge. And they've already got some aerial roots here, so these should hopefully take. And I still have all of these over here in case for some reason I ran short or miscounted. There's more than enough here. So now all we need to do is get our soil in our containers and get these potted up under the ambiance of a helicopter. Can you see it? Anyway, so we're gonna get our cell trays filled with soil, and then I'll show you on a couple how to get them fastened into their new home. Okay, for this I'm gonna use a combination of potting soil and seed starting mix. Just mix it all up. Okay, we've got our cell trays here. I just need to fill them all with soil and not make a mess with my greening pins. Awesome. I'm just gonna tamp the soil down a little bit, get rid of some air pockets. So this is our strawberry plant. You can see right here at the bottom, we've got some aerial roots starting to form. And then as we move up the plant, we've got some branching off. That's the crown of the plant right there, right where it starts to stem off. You don't want to bury this too deep. All you want to do is just push it down into the soil until the roots are covered. And you want to make sure that you keep the crown exposed and above the soil. If you bury it too deep, you could potentially rot out the plant and kill it, or it may not produce fruit because it's buried too deep. So just want to push it into the soil a little bit until we cover the roots, just like that. And then we want to take one of our greening pins and just use it as an anchor to hold this plant in place. Like so. And this will flop a little just because the foliage here is so long. I'll show you on another one. We've got our aerial roots right here. We just want to push it down into the soil so the roots are covered. And then using our pin, we just want to push it down so it holds this into place, kind of like an anchor. Just like that. I ran out of greening pins, so I'm taking paper clips and just breaking them in half and using them as little clips. All right, guys, all of our strawberry plants are potted up and watered in. They do look a little floppy, but that's mostly because some of these are just huge, so their leaves are just flopping over. But you can see if we go in here, they are in the soil. We do have our pins in there. And I did run out halfway through of greening pins, so I used paper clips and just broke them in half and just used them to fasten them in, and it worked just fine. But yeah, some of these just kind of droop because they're just so big. So I'm going to keep these well watered in partial sun for the first couple days, and then actually I'll probably just leave them here because they'll get some sun, some shade, and I think they're going to be happy. They're with all of our seedlings. But yeah, we've got 40 more strawberry plants in addition to the 30 mother plants in the green stalk, plus an additional 30 that we are propagating. So I'm going to be giving a ton of these away and keeping some for myself. A total of 100 strawberry plants, 30 from the mother plants and an additional 70 between the 2 propagating sessions that we did. That is awesome. And then you add in our transplanting and propagating of our shasta daisies. We got an additional 6 or 7 out of that. All in all, a very budget-friendly and productive day. And you guys, that is it for our video today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hey guys, it's the next day. I'm actually in the middle of filming another project right now, and it dawned on me. I came out here early this morning and detached the mother plants from the baby plants that we've been propagating in our green stalk vertical garden, but I didn't film it, but I did want to show you what they look like right now so you can see. So real quick, the green stalk vertical garden looks a lot cleaner now. I went in here and detached all of the baby plants that we've been propagating, and I went ahead and groomed all of the plants because they were looking a little mangy. So this whole thing right now just looks so much nicer, and I feel like the plants have more room and more airflow so they can breathe. And I've got our first set of propagation plants right here. They're actually soaking in water right now because some of the soil was a little bit drier than I thought. So you can see some of them are wilting a little bit, and that's just the initial shock of detaching them from the mother plant. They will perk up again, some of them, but a lot of these are a lot bigger than I even expected. Look at this. Isn't that awesome? So yeah, these are doing, let me get this back in here. These are doing really well, even though they look a little sad right now. They will rebound. The strawberry plants that we propagated yesterday that we detached from the mother plant right off the bat, these are looking really sad. I've got them sitting in a tray of water as well so they can soak up what they need and stay consistently moist, because these tiny terracotta pots and these tiny little containers, they do require a little bit more maintenance as far as keeping them moist consistently, but it's only been 24 hours and they're looking pretty sad. So I'm hoping that they will rebound just like these will. And propagating strawberry plants by detaching them from the mother plant right off the bat, as opposed to leaving them attached, is a bit riskier because right off the bat, they have to fend for themselves and they still haven't even developed any roots yet. So they have twice as much work to do to get rooted in and survive as the ones that were attached to the mother plant. But again, this is a nice experiment to compare and contrast 2 different ways to propagate. So anyways, guys, I just wanted to update you on that real quick, and I will keep you guys posted. Have a great day. Bye.